Hello, everybody, and welcome to another little Q&A session, which is a bit of a bonus. We've got some really cool questions that I wanted to dive into a little bit, and some that still need to answer. So I hope that you are doing well. And today we've got some really exciting questions from Katie G, all about horsenality and humanality. And there is also another few, which I am going to record on the back of this. So let's read out Katie's question, because this is something that I've had on my chart to cover with you guys. Let me show you. So if you can see, oh, not really, it's what I want to cover. And one of those things was horsenality and humanality. And it is created by the Pirellis. So it's very, very much, it's not something that has been created by this program or anything like that, but it's a framework that it was kind of revolutionary, and it's what really got me hooked, because before that we were kind of looking at horses from a one size fits all perspective, and as you know, that just doesn't work. And we were also looking at ourselves from a one size fits all perspective, which, as you know, doesn't work. So it's kind of a combination. It's very psychology based. It's kind of put together by a personality psychologist. I don't know, he's probably got a better title than that. But what they found was, it's in really good horsemen, they intuitively changed how they were training, approaching horses. And they didn't know why, because they were so intuitive. They differ what they were doing with the horses depending on their horsenality. But to the naked eye and to the people in the crowd, it wasn't clear why or when to change. So it really helped bridge the gap between professionals and non-professionals, I'm going to say, because it's not amateurs, but and that's why it was really empowering, because it started to create a framework and answers as to why our horses were doing what they were doing, why they were so different, why one thing might work with one horse and another thing might not work with another horse. And just to add a depth there, it also did something amazing in us, is that it helped us realize that we have to match the horse, not the other way around. So because we are the ones who bring the horses into our world, it's up to us to become super flexible, super adaptable, and almost like being able to play different instruments based on what the horse needs in that moment. So it was really, really revolutionary. And I think it's one of the best things to come out of the Pirelli program by far, because it's, yes, there's limitations to it, as all frameworks, it is a framework. But I think it's something that we need to continue acknowledging and exploring, to deepen our awareness of ourselves and how to help ourselves, but also how we need to show up for our horse, and what our horse needs in that moment. So what I wanted to share today was a little bit about that, because perhaps it might be useful for you to explore in your own world. You might have already kind of touched on it. And obviously kind of the Pirelli program's broken down a bit now, so it's not something that is shared. But I know how valuable this is. So just to kind of ride on the back of their coattails a little bit, and to give you guys that knowledge, I'm by no means an expert on horsenality. It's just something that I've been super interested and passionate about, as well as looking at it from a human perspective, very much what I used to do in my degree. So I'm going to read out the question that Katie gave us, because I do believe it's a beautiful question, and it really aligns with what we're doing on the nervous system, which is why I was really excited about it, because I was struggling. I didn't want to do a whole month on it, but I wanted to tie it in somehow. And Katie, thank you for the open door for me to step through. So let me read out Katie's question. So thinking about the nervous system and horsenality slash personality, the more I think about and learn about the nervous system, I wonder who we are. That's a bit deep, but when I think about the way we are, the things we identify with, our personality traits, they can pretty much all be mapped to which nervous system state we are in. If how we show up in the world is based on our nervous system, or sorry, is based on how our nervous system is responding slash reacting. Sorry, I've got the hiccups. Then who are we? I'm thinking we are the witness underneath. And at our core, we are loving awareness, and sitting on top is the nervous system, which I just love this image so much. And I think it's so true. You can see it. You can see it. Those layers. It blows my mind. Yes, us too. And thinking specifically about Rosie's horsenality, so that's Katie's lovely mare Rosie, she presents predominantly as introverted, often flicking between unconfident introvert and confident introvert. I can relate to the other comments about them stopping and not wanting to move. When she's unconfident introvert, which I think is yellow and not a total freeze, I believe she feels she can't move because she doesn't feel safe. She's distracted or needs to be on watch. When she's confident introvert, I believe she doesn't feel like moving, so she's asking what's in it for me. Bang on, Katie, absolutely bang on. So is uninterested and just doesn't feel like it. When she's confident introvert, she also might be in yellow. What do you think? I don't think she feels unsafe, but does she perhaps feel unsafe to move? Potentially, she's feeling a bit of fight, defensive about what I'm asking of her. It might be boring or just something she doesn't feel like doing. Okay, so much to break down there. Firstly, I love the observation of how she's shifting into different states and how it feels. And there's a lot to be said for this because one behavior, that's why we can't focus on the behaviors, because one behavior might come from one place, the same behavior might come from another the next moment. So it expresses itself as it's not moving. It could be a what's in it for me, I don't really want to, or it could be a I don't feel safe to move, I can't do it, I'm not ready. Or it could be a kind of pain, it could be physical, like anything. And I'm not saying that's what Rosie is experiencing, but I'm just saying it's a plethora. And that's our job as horse trainers, which you all are, is to navigate and understand. And what I'm teaching you here is different frameworks to understand things within. So it's not the answers to your questions, but it's the map to try and get there yourself. And you'll always be using your map and influencing it, adding new things in, developing it, testing it. And it is like a scientific art. It is the art of refining, it is the art of practicing, it is the art of getting it wrong. And we are humans and we aren't gifted with the answers. Just like raising a kid, we don't know, well, I mean, I don't have a kid, but the mums in the room say, no one gave you a handbook. And the handbooks that they did give you will have definitely changed. And that's very much how it feels for our horses right now. So this is a framework to explore. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the horsenality chart. Where are we? Here, oh, that's the humanality one. 1 second, guys. Okay. Oh, actually, Katie, you've got a lovely example of it, so I'm going to bring that up here. And okay, let me see if I can share my screen. Oops. All right. I hope you can see that okay. Right, so something to say before we get started is when it comes to the nervous system and the body and the brain, where your rational information is stored is in your left brain. So this is the part of the brain that is a problem solver. This is the part of the brain that overanalyzes. 1 second. Oh, hey, I've only got about 5 minutes because I need to finish recording something. But hello, how you doing? How was it? Yes. Okay. Hmm. Right, sorry, I've literally have no idea where we were. Had a little bit of interruption. So, when it comes to the brain, your left brain is really to do with your rational thinking. So, it is very much about information sorting, analysis. That's when if you get analysis paralysis, that's when you're really stuck in your left brain. It is also associated with um, logic. Um, and that's why you'll see on the with the horses what that kind of manifests as in their behavior. Whereas the right side of the brain is the emotional part of your brain. So even though you've got the layers of the brain, it's all quite complicated. You've got your layers of the brain, but in that, the left brain, so for example, when you have a trauma response, it's your right brain that's fired up. There's no left brain because you're not able to rationalize, you're not able to problem solve, you're not able to bring yourself back to the moment or filter. It's very much that raw emotions. Think of getting lost in emotion. Your memories are stored there. It's very much where the seat of all of your kind of inner wounds are held, but it's also the seat of emotions, like I say. So it's like the beautiful, colorful. You might have seen like a chart where there's a left brain, which is like quite matty, and the right brain, which is like a watercolor. It's doesn't have language, your right brain. It's very much the intuitive feelings side of you. And what I really want to kind of get at here is not that one is superior to the other, because that is something very a flaw of this model and how it's taught is that it's very encouraged for your horses and yourself to be very left brain. So you might hear, even the way I've described it, you might hear logical and think that's great, and you might hear emotional and think, oh, that's bad, that's uncontrollable. And actually, I encourage you to lift yourself out of those definitions and hear it for what it is. So emotional can be, we think of emotional as like, oh, she's emotional, but it's not. It's emotion can be joy, love, and not that fear is not a bad emotion. No, there's no such thing as a bad emotion. It is the expression of you, the intuition of you, the colors of you, and equally the left brain is beautiful too. It's a lot more structured. There's a lot more kind of sorting out going on there, and the real magic is when the two meet. So the dance between the left and the right, and that is kind of what it says here. So what you want is not necessarily a getting stuck in one or the other. You want a marriage between the two, and that's why tapping is really powerful, because you're tapping, and so you're tapping into your body literally. So you've got your right brain's very embodied, and you're also saying, you're also speaking, so you're tapping into your language part of your brain. So you've got the left and the right part going together like this. and it helps them join together as one. And that's where the real magic happens. So, with that in mind, we're going to talk through each section. You might find that your horse predominantly sits in one. But what I want us to think about is how they will probably hang out in one, but they will be all of them in some measure, shape, or form. Because just like Katie said, it is the expression of the nervous system, the environment, their behaviors. A lot of it is trained within us. A lot of it is probably based on trauma responses, our blueprints, and that can change and grow with us. So you have your personality, and that is another conversation entirely, but I want to kind of move out of the tendency to put yourself in one. For example, I always thought I was a right brain introvert. I always put myself in that box, and I shut the lid and said, yep, I'm a right brain introvert. And it wasn't until I started working with a friend who said, no, you're not. You're a right brain extrovert. And I was like, no, no, darling, I am very introverted. And she was like, Kat, you talk so fast, you move so fast, you are confident in front of people, you can't stand still, you are normally a right-brain extrovert. And it wasn't until she said that I was like, oh, I just put myself in a box and closed it. And I just said that's the truth. And again, another friend of mine, she is an RBI, but she masked as an LBE. So she masked as a left brain extrovert. So much so she's got a tattoo of it. And it wasn't until she kind of embraced some other sides of herself that she could start to really say, oh, yes, innately, I am more of a right brain introvert, but I can show up in any place. So it is about coming home to yourself, learning about yourself, and using this as a framework rather than a religion. So let's start on the left. So left brain extrovert, you can see, right, you can see this one here. So this guy is, let's read. So these are the positive traits. So we've got, maybe not all the positive, actually. I don't think they are. So we've got energetic, exuberant, charismatic. They're all quite positive. Mischievous, because remember, that left side of your brain is about problem solving, outsmarting. These are the cheeky little ponies that will outsmart their humans. Tendency to bite, strike, playful, mouthy, naughty, bossy, willful. And these aren't kind of like defining, they kind of put together the words that people use when they're talking about these horses. So it's very much kind of to connect with horsey people and what they might say about their horse. So, you know, obviously to us, we know they're not naughty, but to the lay horse person, they're like, yes, they're very naughty. They love kind of fast moving things, new things. They get bored very easily. They kind of, if you don't kind of move with them, with their ideas, they think they're like, no, you're not for me. They can be quite overpowering. So a lot of times they've got very big energy, and they can also feel insecure. So it's, yeah. And so, right, where are we? So if you look at these circles, so the outside is the more extreme, and as you move inside, you get more balanced. So for example, if your horse is very, very mouthy, you'd put across here. If they're very, very bossy, you'd put across here. If they're not that energetic, you'd put across here. If that makes sense. So you kind of get an impression of where they are. Okay, great. We've got the left brain introvert. So we've got easily bored, pushy, argumentative, tendency to buck, charge, stubborn, food focused, disinterested, unmotivated, lazy, not responsive, low key. Introvert and extrovert basically means the difference in processing. So they process internally very much more than an extrovert. An extrovert almost needs to eat up information to process. So they might need to move, for example, to process. And whereas an introvert, they kind of express things inwardly. So yes, the left brain introvert is very much an energy of why should I? And they're so smart, these guys. They're so smart. They're so economical. They're very kind of, the more you try and hype them up, the less they want to move. They're very low key. These in people are the statisticians. These guys are the ones who are amazing at putting a plan together, who need to solve problems, but not really make a big fuss out of it. Yeah, there's an introvertedness, there's an inside energy to them. And these guys, so what I want to show you on the left brain is when they get scared or unsure, they don't look for they don't often seek help because they're more confident, but confident in their own feet. So for example, if they're scared, they'll be confidently scared. So they won't be like, hey, human, what do you think? Should I be scared of that? They go, I am scared of that. And that is my evaluation of the situation. So I'm going to leave. If you want to join me, that's up to you. If you don't want to join me, that's also up to you, but I'm gone. And there's very much like a detachment of that connection when they feel unsure. They kind of take things into their own hands, if that makes sense. Interestingly, these guys aren't very great leaders of herds or, in domesticated herds. They are way too in it for themselves, if that makes sense. So they don't want the hassle of navigating the responsibility. They'll very much just want to kind of have push others around, but not from a place of keeping others safe. They want other people to keep them safe in the herd, but in humans they find it really hard to be held, if that makes sense. They're often, yeah, I don't know if I've explained that right. So you might find that your horse kind of taps into one or the other. Okay, so this is how Katie feels like Rosie goes when she feels confident. So she's like, why should I move, human? Why should I move? Very much, you can see the little tongue sticking out there, just like, make me. And a lot of times we can misinterpret these signals. This is where we've got to be really careful with this because, I mean, Katie, you've come to it from an incredible self-awareness, but other people can go, yeah, they're sticking their tongue out at me. They don't want to move. Whereas actually, just like Katie said, they're in right brain introvert. So right brain introvert, what does that mean? So right brain, which means more emotional. And in they say in Pirelli terms, it's less confident. Hi, everybody. You may have noticed that I have got a change of clothes. It is another day. It is another day. I've decided I got interrupted, so I've decided to come back to it. So where were we? Let me share my screen. So we were looking at RBI. Now, RBI, so right brain introvert. So introverts process very inside. If they're a human, they kind of process non-verbally, whereas extroverts process verbally. So you get the likes of me, who's very right brain extrovert, who talk. You might get someone who's an introvert who they don't process that way. It's very much kind of a reflective, lots of time. And that is the same with our RBIs. So right brain introvert, it mostly represents when they are in red. So if you think about the rainbow of states, and here you can see the kind of outside. So here Rosie shows a lot of right brain introvert kind of characteristics. So we've got shut down, hesitant, freezes and explodes. They're all quite strong. So the outside means that there's probably a lot of red states in there. The closer they are to the middle, the more balanced, the more green they will feel. And equally, your horse, when they're in green, they may kind of tap into another area of the quadrant. So it's not to say that your horse is kind of tied down to one or the other. It's again just a helpful framework to notice where they are at. And you'll see patterns in horses that kind of fall into one or the other. And it just helps you be flexible as a human, because we're the human and we're the ones who have the powerful processing brain. Well, even though we don't process, but that kind of rational brain, and also we've taken them out of their wild environment, so we're the ones who have to be flexible. That's why it's amazing to, you know, play with so many horses and see so many horses, as you see so many different personalities, horsenalities, and those of you who have, you know, deal with people in your job, you'll know that depending on the day, people will kind of flick between a few, but overall, they'll probably fall into one or another. And every single person will need something different, a different approach. And it's up to us to figure out how to be flexible in us. So the closer they are to the middle, the more easily they can tap into the other quadrants. Because if you see, when you're on the outside, it will be very, very difficult to kind of flexibly and balanced tap into the others. Because when you're in green, just like our nervous system, we can tap into our different states, but from in a different way. They're not taking us over, we're very mindfully going into them. So we'll be able to tap into that strategy, we'll be able to tap into that extroversion, we'll be able to tap into that doing, be able to tap into the reflection, because we feel more balanced. Whereas the more extreme and red we go, the harder it will be to tap into another quadrant, even if that's what we may need. So let's crack on with RBI. So right brain introvert, when they're green, these guys are all about relationship. They could quite happily sit there all day with you, stroking them, talking to them. They feel they want to be loved, they want to be safe, they want to be held. They're not too focused on growing or stretching or exploring. They're very, very much, if I'm safe in my herd with my person, life is good. And these guys really struggle to progress and to find their curiosity and confidence. But that can come, these guys are, they are very reflective, they are very soft, they are very careful and cautious. If you've ever heard an RBI walk, you can barely hear their footfalls. Whereas a left brain extrovert, it's like clomp, clomp, clomp. If you listen to a real RBI walking, it's like, even if they're massive horses, the way they take their steps is very precise, very soft, very controlled, and that is very much who they are. And a lot of horses who are shut down can kind of present as this, and the more you bring them out of their shell, the more they can kind of become more flexible in other places. So when these guys aren't okay, so when they're in the orange and the red, they feel very insecure. So they need a lot of validation, a lot of reassurance, a lot of hand holding. They feel overwhelmed by a lot of stuff. Very easy to go too quickly with these guys. They can, basically it's freeze and shut down. These guys represent the freeze and the shutdown. You can see in the little picture on the right, that kind of stuck posture. So all of these little cartoons are just a little kind of representation of what these guys kind of look like, or can look like, to help people kind of spot what they're looking for. And an RBI is very much that kind of, and these are the horses that people often say, "Oh, they were so calm," and then all of a sudden they just ran out the school and started bucking and bronking, and that's often when they've gone way over threshold. They've got pushed so far that they've just exploded. So let's look. So we've got distrustful, unpredictable, tendency to kick. Yeah, these guys will are yeah, they freezing and can explode, shy, hesitant, shut down. So you can see, um, you can see how kind of it's a more insecure, they've described them in a more insecure way, which I find really interesting because you look these this is where I find it interesting because if you look at the wording, tense, can't think, distrustful, um, hesitant, and then look at the left brain ones, you've got mischievous, charismatic, exuberant, energetic, playful. Um, so you can see the kind of ones that this framework favors, which is the left brain extrovert. It's just a really interesting point just to kind of keep in mind that that's often with life as well. So if you ever feel like you've been put under pressure to show up as that confident, extroverted, you can see how in society that gets rewarded. Whereas the introvert or the one who, yeah, particularly the introvert, but guys, it's kind of more criticized, which is just an interesting observation. Okay, so yeah, these guys need safety, they need consistency, they need a lot more time to process. They love repetition, and they need to go slow and they need to take their time and really build up that trust with you before they feel comfortable to kind of move and grow and stretch. So let's move on to the right brain extroverts. So this is me. These in horses, the really, really, really extreme ones, um, they are often the doers. So these guys are they need to move their feet. In green, when they're feeling good and balanced, these guys are their doers. They are kind of make it happeners. They are yes men. They are very much the people pleasers of the horse world, the right brains, because they'll kind of, especially the right brain extrovert, they're very yes. So they overcommit. Like, yes, I'll do this jump. Yes, I'll do this. Yes, I'll do this. They often um overstep their own boundaries and thresholds, and they can kind of send themselves into a bit of a spiral, and when they get on that adrenaline they represent flight. So when they feel red or yellow in their states, they are gone, they are flighty. Sometimes you get them so extreme. The horse I worked with in Ghana was a right brain extrovert who was so extreme. He would just run and run and run. And he didn't know why he was running, what he was doing. They just get on a circle and they just go. And that's where it gets really interesting with these guys because it's a very fine line. They are, it's a very fine line between helping them feel like they've got freedom and direction. So just like a dog that needs a lot of running, but you can't just let them go and allow them to work it off. You've almost got to give them a hand to come back to. Because they just get lost and they can feel insecure, they can feel emotional. They really need you to be there whilst not control. So if we try and shut them down, if we try and can overly control and micromanage, it will send these guys nuts. They're like, I can't. That's like me. If someone tries to micromanage me or control me, I get panicked and I get more up, more chaotic. Whereas if I'm kind of allowed that freedom with direction, I feel a lot safer. And it's exactly the same with these horses. And yeah, and it's really important that we honor their thresholds, but also, yeah, giving them often a few boundaries. um it's almost like feeling lost in a crowd. If your friend disappears and goes quiet, you feel more lost. Whereas what they need from us is they need us to be that really present, almost in the moment with them, but not rising to the emotions with them. They need to be able to hear us, to see us, in order to have that hand to come back down. And these guys, it's really about helping them regulate that adrenaline without flying off. And the more that we help them practice that, the more they can feel empowered within their movement rather than taken over by their movement, if that makes sense. So yeah, these guys need a lot of movement, a lot of things to do, things to think about. These are the guys that you wouldn't kind of walk in a school and just stand with straight away. You kind of walk around with them, give them something to focus on, and then their nervous system will naturally come down. So if you think about every single one and what their nervous system is telling you, what their nervous system needs, and that will give you an indication as to how to help them regulate in that moment. So I hope that makes sense. And I also, you know, we've got the fight of the left brain extrovert. So when they feel insecure, when they feel red, they go into fight. So they can be pushy, they can be quite overpowering, very strong, very challenging. Then we've got the kind of they call it fume in Pirelli, that kind of like, oh, it is kind of a mix of all of them. I feel like the left brain introvert is a very blended kind of response when it's not fit, when they're not feeling secure, because you've got the kind of disdain and a little bit provocativeness from the fight. You've also got the tendency to explode. You've also got that kind of little bit of a shutdownness. So it's really interesting, a little bit of a blend there, which is why it can feel really triggering when you're trying to help them through that. And the right brain introvert is the freeze, shutdown, and the right brain extrovert is the flight. So you can see how the nervous system plays a part in these personality styles. And that's why it's such a helpful guide. And it is a guide, you know, a lot of people have died on this hill, but actually being flexible with it and using it as a little sprinkle of salt when you need it, rather than kind of lumping them into one section and just like yourself. So I wanted to talk a little bit about humanality as well. I don't want to go on too long because I know you've got plenty of things to get on with. So I wanted to show you, I'm just going to see humanality, because I did a humanality chart, which I found very interesting. And it just talks about it in humans, because what happens is we often attract horses that trigger us. So if we are an introvert, we often attract extroverts, which make us get out of our shell, which make us let go of a little bit of control. If you're a right brain introvert and you attract a left brain extrovert, which is what I did, oh my goodness, good luck, because they are going to force you to they're going to make you step out of your comfort zone. They're going to push you to set boundaries. They're going to be like, there's no rules, let's just have fun. And we're there like, oh my god. Equally, if you love order, if you like rules, I can't find my report, so I'm gonna Google it here. So essentially, it's our horses are amazing at finding our triggers. They really, really are. And the more we get to learn about who we are and also becoming more regulated, the more flexible we are able to be for them and the less they trigger us. So let's see. Here we go. And it's really helpful to understand why certain horses suit you more or trigger you more. And I always believe that we attract the horse that we need to teach us in that moment. So I always attract the left brain introverts and the right brain extroverts, which are the most challenging to the right brains. Okay. Just delete some of these things. Okay, so here we've got Horsenality. You can see the difference in them already. Can you see the stances? So I am somewhere here. I am on the inside of the right brain extrovert and the right brain introvert, which means that when you're on the inside, thankfully I've done a lot of work on myself at that point, you're more able to stay more regulated, more balanced, and you're able to tap into all of them consciously. So that means that you'll be very good with a lot of horses, a lot of people, and the more regulated you are, the more you come to the middle. So let's start with left brain extrovert. So in a human, these people are the bit of a joker. They're a bit of an entertainer. They are socializers. They are very confident. They kind of thrive in social settings. They can be very provocative. So these people at a dinner table would be your kind of not afraid to start a discussion about politics, not afraid to say what they feel, love to be the center of attention. But when they feel insecure, they can be really difficult. So they kind of prod people. They can be very, I think I've used provocative a lot of the time. So when they feel confident, they feel adventurous. They are very about expansion and spontaneity. But yeah, when they feel insecure, you get this more fight come up. You get this more kind of defensiveness with a bite attached. They can be very in your face, not necessarily able to read the room all the time. And yeah, so that is your left brain extrovert. So you can imagine if a left brain extrovert person connected with a right brain introvert horse, and the left brain extrovert's like, come on then, let's go, off we are, like, don't worry about thinking about stuff, let's just go, let's do it. And the right brain introvert horse is like, oh my God, I'm so insecure, I feel really scared, I feel really overwhelmed. You can just see how those personalities may clash. So that is why we are learning this stuff. And the more the right brain introvert triggers the left brain extrovert, the more extreme both of them become. Can you see that? So let's go to left brain introvert. So we've got confident introvert. So left brain means strategic, rational, and the introvert means more inside. So processes inside, moves a bit slower, not in their mind, but in their body. So this kind of person is really rational and strategic. They're amazing at problem solving. They love the rules. They feel like they need to follow the rules. And also, it's important to note that Horsenality and Horsenality, they're very much created by, biology, experiences, our blueprints, our traumas, our conditioning. And the more we kind of change and grow, the more we're going to change and grow with this too. So the left brain introvert loves control. They feel safe with control. Whereas the left brain extrovert feels unsafe with control. So you've got your left brain introvert, and when they feel in the red or insecure, it's normally when someone's really kind of triggered that control part. So maybe they've said, I'm going to do it this way, and the left brain introvert's like, no, but that's not the right way. And they're like, but I don't care. So they can be very stubborn, very a stickler for the rules, not that very empathetic. So they kind of can't understand why people aren't doing it the right way. And you get that kind of detachment, I think, from the left brain introvert. It's very, when they feel insecure, there's a detachment there and there's a control there. Nothing wrong or right. It's just how it is. You might be able to see a few of these in yourself. I think we all have those moments. And then let's move to the right brain introvert. So this kind of person um, is, again, just wants to be loved and validated and seen. Um, I think all of them do, but this one in particular, they're very internal. So they probably find socializing quite difficult. They need lots of time to process on their own, maybe. This person is very, again, very reflective, just like the Horsenality. Um, Often doesn't really know how to get involved, sometimes is on the edge in social circles, needs a lot of encouragement, needs a lot of reassurance. But when these guys are green, they are super intuitive, super empathic. They're the carers, they are nurturers, they are, yeah, I think that kind of sums them up very well. These guys, though, they explode. They go quiet, 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 explode at boundaries. So you've got that freezy state, freezy state, freezy state, explode. Very, very much like the horse. So you can imagine if a horse who is a right brain extrovert and meets a right brain introvert, and the more the horse moves, the more insecure the person feels. And then the person explodes, and then the horse explodes because the person's exploded. So I hope this is all making sense. And then we've got the right brain extrovert. So when this person is that flappy person who processes by talking, talks at 100 million miles an hour, is such a doer, has like 1,000 things in their plate, overcommits, they're the runner. So they're trying to outrun situations, outrun feelings, outrun everything. But they are the super multitaskers. They are the get it done people, the productive, the overachieving, often perfectionist. These people, yeah, a bit like I was just saying before, control and micromanagement just doesn't work with these guys. But equally, not giving them any direction doesn't work either. So when they're green, they are the kind of, yes, I've got this. I'm going to be doing the washing and writing a book and doing this at the same time. I love people. I want to socialize with everybody. I can get on well with everybody. But when they're red, often either they've crashed, or it can just be like an extreme flappiness, a insecurity, just a chaoticness, lack of groundedness. These people can often stress people out because their energy, when they bring that energy to the room, there's so much there that's like, whoa, my goodness. And often these two, the right brain introvert and right brain extrovert, are quite cuspy. So often the right brain extrovert goes, and then crashes into right brain introvert. And if right brain introvert gets pushed, they go into right brain extrovert. There's that that flight shutdown kind of thing. So yeah, I hope that has made sense. And all of us want safety in different ways. And what we look for is very, very much dependent on, yeah, what we deem as safe and what we deem as helpful. And also a lot of it has got to do with our attachment styles as well. So that's something we're not going to go into today, but just a little piece of the puzzle that if you are a left brain introvert, you're probably a little bit more avoidant. And right, like there's there's insecure, there is it's all a smorgasbord of things to kind of look at and figure out. Yeah, and then you've got your kind of right brain extrovert, which might be a bit more anxious, that kind of like, oh my god, I need validation all the time. So yeah, it's a really interesting thing to work with. And you can see how a right brain extrovert, if they attract a left brain extrovert horse, like me and Hero, I'm like, come on, let's go a bit faster. Blah, 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 blah. And he's like, stop. I don't want to go anywhere. Enough. This is boring. You're too much energy. You're not giving me enough structure and motive and like incentive. What are you doing? And that is why, my friends, that this is a beautiful chance to self-develop and to balance and to become aware of where you are, where your horse is, and where you guys might clash, where you might need to pay some attention, and also where you might complement each other. So my dream pairing for me is I'm amazing with right brain introverts. I'm so good with them because because I can so relate and I can just sit with them in silence, just being in their little bubble all day. Whereas I find left brain extroverts and introverts so challenging. Whereas other people might love those and find the right brain ones really, really challenging. So I invite you to take a little look at where you may be, which one has spoken to you the most. And this is very, very much if your technique or what you're doing with your horse is let's just say it's a crisp, right? These give you the flavor of how to do it. So just let's take a backup, for example. When I was really into Pirelli and all of this stuff, that you would change your backup depending on the personality of the horse. Excuse me. So if it was a right brain introvert, you'd probably be slower, more consistent, not escalate, give them more guidance. If you are with a left brain introvert, it would probably be a lot more intense, a very much more like that energy, and then probably this is how I used to do it. Then probably a big like, come on, and then start from again. Whereas left brain extrovert would be a lot more playful, a lot more high energy, a lot more intentional. And a right brain extrovert, you don't want to go too fast because they'll just explode. So it's literally probably just honestly, sometimes a breath and they're off. Whereas if you were to do the left brain introvert approach, which is like that, okay, ready, go, they would explode. So it's very, very much using this as a little sauce, a little flavor, a little salt and pepper for any of the techniques that we're going to explore, and ridden like groundwork that you explore yourself on your journey. Adjust them to your horse and adjust them to your horse on the day. I hope that helps. I hope that resonates. And I hope that ties in a little bit more with the nervous system and understanding how it shows up through these horsenalities, personalities, in more and less extreme ways, and how when your horse feels confident and unconfident, they may flick too, as do you. So I'm going to stop sharing that now. But yeah, and please, if there's any questions about this stuff, I love it. I used to be absolutely obsessed with it. So please do ask away. I'd be more than happy to answer your questions and to have a little bit of a discussion about this. So yeah, lots of love, guys. Hope you enjoyed and see you soon.